recording though, so that's up and running when they jump on.
So Miranda, you'll still be taking notes tonight, right?
So that's my plan.
Okay. Because I could always do it if you had to do something else.
No, I'm fine. It'll be good. And so my thought is that what I'll do after Monday night, I'll kind of pull everything together and at least put it in a formatting same, and then send it to you for that more language flow.
Okay, sounds good.
Because I format it so it all looks the same.
Because I think some of this stuff is going to need to go into like we did last night, where it becomes like a addendum almost for projects and initiatives.
Yeah, my only thought or concern is when now we only have 4 groups who have projects and initiatives. So I'd like to maybe after Tuesday's meeting allow the other 3 groups to do that if they're so interested, so that it doesn't look like some did it and some didn't. But I think we could talk about that on Tuesday.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
You there, Kayla? Is that Kayla? I think it is.
Yep, it's me.
We're just waiting for Ron.
Okay.
Kayla, you know how to have fun on a Friday night?
Let's see. I am actually running down to, after this meeting, I'm feeding my dogs real quick and then running down to Boulder to do all these errands for things that we need for the cabins. We make this little list as we go through them to get ready. Like,
when are you guys opening?
Memorial Day weekend.
Isn't that the same weekend you're launching the movies again?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
Just slap me. If I'm not ready by Friday afternoon or Friday, for the ranch, me just going over and saying hello to everybody at the movie theater, it's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to the movies, but I'm also kind of not, in a way, Sure. I just want people to be safe, and we're going to try, with certain kind of protocol, and it's going to be a little different, but at least it'll be something for people, so.
Well, come May 16th, we're in the all clear, which means we're loosening restrictions pretty much all the way. So, but still wearing masks. Anyways, it looks like May got on. Do we know if anyone else from the committee is coming tonight, May and Kayla?
I know Tashna's not here, but I just sent Ron a message asking if he could jump on.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's coming tonight, and we could get started because I have to tell you guys all that both Miranda and we really do have to stop at 6.
That's perfect.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, good.
I'm pretty fried from putting this together, and I just.
So May, did you send me something? Because it never came through.
Kayla, I was still like pedal to the metal.
Headache? That's fine, honey. Don't worry about it. We'll get done what we get done.
Yep, let's see how it goes. So my process was laborious. I've read the comments online, and I do have trouble with the Google Docs, so I think I remember a lot of them, but I want to make sure we go through those. But I'd like to start like we did last night on community engagement with this document, and I took mostly the letters that came in and the survey forms. And what I did was occasionally I would add a goal or an objective. And I've added the comments in italics that either support it or might want us to expand on it. So that's so Miranda, is there any way you could make that a little bit bigger? Oh, perfect. Okay. So what I'd like to do tonight is get people's feedback on, especially with the stuff in italics, whether it's been covered, whether we want to include more of that, and maybe take about half the meeting or maybe 40 minutes or so to get through this document and then go to the Google Docs and go through those comments as well. But I have a feeling a lot of those will be taken care of.
Okay, I'm looking at these things that came up on the. I must not be looking at the right document here. What's the?
Kayla, I literally just forwarded it to you. May just sent it to me. So refresh your emails and you should have it.
Okay.
Oh, awesome, Miranda. Thank you. Oh, I forgot about that, Kayla, that you don't see the Google Doc. So, okay. So I've broken it in, I think it's to 5 goals. Tried to stay pretty true to the ones we had, talk about a timeline, about revising codes, allowing for construction, what kinds of construction. I've added a goal of aligning with sustainability. And as part of that is wildfire urban interface. So goal 1, I did change this. I took out the word commercial. There seemed to be a lot of consternation over that word. I know Ron was interested in that word, but if he jumps on later, maybe he can elucidate why he wanted that particular word. So I've just changed it a little bit, allow for the construction of housing to meet the needs of our local population through lodging, I think, which is what people are saying commercial stuff is, and residential housing for the entire economic spectrum. And because I wanted to open this goal up to the idea of low income transitional housing. So I've added this paragraph as a 1.1. And what we're going to need to do, and I ask for everybody's help on this, is I haven't broken it up into action items and God, my head is so
May, you're reading my mind, because I think your very first words, consider options for low income and transitional housing, period. That's your objective.
okay.
Then saying the tiny homes, relaxed restrictions on homeowners who rent, blah, 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 foam creep, all that stuff, I think becomes part of your, kind of what were we talking about, like an addendum of projects and initiatives.
Okay, can we, Miranda, can you make these changes as we go? Suggestions anyway? So consider options for low income and transitional housing, period. That's our objective. And so just put a period after housing. I'll remember that. Great. Okay.
What do we consider, what do we consider transitional housing?
Transitional housing was kind of explained to us by Ron, and it's different from transient housing. I know it can be confusing, but transitional housing is the people we were talking about earlier, Kayla. Somebody who might be working for the ski area, for example, and they're thinking about moving to the mountains. So
Right.
they go ahead and rent a place, for the summer or for a period of time, and they're hoping to work their way into.
Okay,
something.
so it's housing that, because that word can mean a whole lot of things to a whole lot of people. Transitional can mean we used to be in a big house here and we want to downsize into something smaller, or we rented for a year and really like it up here and now we want to try and buy something here, or whatever.
Kayla, I just want to mention the wording that Bonnie has included here, alternative housing codes for an experimental housing pathway. Now, I don't know about the bypasses local Boulder County building codes to allow for both straw bale homes and blah. But if you look at just the beginning, alternative housing codes for experimental, and maybe we come up with a little different word, housing pathway, maybe innovative. I don't know. Anyways, but the reason I mention it is that Bonnie is on the line, Kayla. I don't know. I know you came on last night a little late in the meeting, but I don't know if the two of you have met. And it kind of fits in with this conversation you're having right now. So I just wanted to point that out.
Sure.
I like that idea of innovative housing. And what I spoke about is that I tried talking to Boulder County that instead of having such strict codes for everybody, that there be a pathway that they could experiment with and find out, okay, what is it like if we relax some of the codes and allow composting toilets instead of having a whole septic system, for example?
And you know, Bonnie, that brings to mind, I was going to put the link in, but I noticed that the town of Lyons, which I like to drive through, has been experimenting with tiny homes, and they're providing a pathway like that. They're allowing up to 10 tiny homes. Then they're going to evaluate how it's fitting in, how it's going, whether they want to expand that. So should we will consider options for low-income housing. We can take transitional out if you don't like it, Kayla.
No, I just wanted more of a definition of what you consider transitional. I think that can apply to a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, which is actually good. So
yeah, you made that point when we talked, and I'm sorry, I didn't get that written in. So maybe we should replace the paragraph that I have and work with Bonnie's to establish a goal, which would be alternative housing codes, or consider options for alternative housing codes for an experimental housing pathway to allow, lead out that Boulder County stuff, for both straw bale homes and other alternative buildings, composting toilets, and electricity from solar panels, even run by DC. Maybe combine those two. I like the point that you have, that there are a lot of these big McMansions available, and I continue to touch on that as we go through the thing. So let's go back to the goal and say, consider options for experimental housing, an experimental housing pathway for alternative and low-income homes. And take out transitional housing. And then we can tinker with those two paragraphs later, because I don't think there's any way we're going to totally get this done by 6. Agreed? Or do you want to keep going on this one, Kayla and Bonnie?
Sure.
And really hammer it out? Okay, so the project
No. I mean, keep moving forward.
Keep moving
Miranda,
forward. Okay.
I still am not getting anything that's been sent to me, the latest upload here. I mean, I'm just kind of shooting in the wind here. I'm on my computer and I'm not looking at anything here.
I'll send you one too, Kayla.
So it sounds like we should advance to the next, like 1.1.1, clarify and revise in code what constitutes a dwelling unit.
Right, because at this point, they have to be hooked up to the tap and sewer. And if you were to eliminate that, and it's part of an overall strategy that I think we need to go for, where we address the need for housing on a variety of levels. And one of those levels, if we want to do low-income housing, which we all know is pretty hard. I think we have to explore that. So, and then here's some comments by Susan Wagner. Tiny homes, composting toilets, possibility of RVs, adjusting tap fees. I go into that later. And this detail about the, the elderification of Netherlands is important, but it may not be relevant. But I thought it was pertinent because this affordable housing that we have is not affordable to low-income people.
Well, and when we talk about the addendum of, potential projects and initiatives, we could have that permitting compost toilets and blah, 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 and studying experience of other small Colorado towns in resolving homelessness and lack of affordable housing. And those actually, with tiny houses, RVs on small sites and other accommodations, adjusting tap fees by house size. I mean, we could play around with those and capture even what was in the earlier goal as well, because it kind of is repetitive, but we could put it all together in one.
Yeah, so maybe Miranda, we could make a note on those last two line items, that these could be projects initiatives.
And I agree with you, May, that the between 2015, 2020, that whole paragraph, that doesn't really belong in anywhere in this document. I mean,
okay,
it's a great thing to know, but it doesn't, it's not going to be a part of the vision, goals, and objectives.
Okay, on to 1.2. Boy, we are racing through this. Now, 1.2, builders who offer a percentage of housing under a flex rent schedule may qualify for takeout incentives by offering a decreasing discount initiative to help newcomers work their way into the community. That was Ron's idea, and I thought it was a good one.
So you want her to take out the word "these," right?
Yeah.
But keep incentives. So builders who offer a percentage of housing under a flex rent schedule may qualify for incentives by offering a decreasing discount incentive to help newcomers work their way into the community. I think it's a little bulky. I think I could work with that.
By all means.
Offline, it's a little cumbersome. I get what's trying to be said, but I think there's a way to say it and be clearer and more concise.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
First of all, we don't know what exactly the flex rent schedule is going to be. So to say you qualify for something that you don't know what you're qualifying for, I don't think you can do that. So
I think it's a cleaner thing to say something like developers can be made eligible for incentives for providing affordable living and working space, something like that. And that's not very elegant either, but it's clearer, and this is where you don't want to get too detailed, because like you said, Kayla, it almost begs more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Really, what's the desired outcome, right? The desired outcome is to create some initiatives that encourage builders to create affordable living and workspace, right? That's really what the goal is. And so anyways.
Well, Karen, do you think this would qualify as a project initiative? And maybe instead of putting it so strongly, we should say, like I was doing with the housing trust, which I don't understand, and that is just investigate the feasibility of offering builders or developers feasibility of offering builders or developers.
Well, I think for that, getting that specific, and Ron is on now, but I still think it's not a bad idea to actually have a goal, a very succinct, concise and clear goal that says something about, initiative, what's what I'm trying to say? Um, uh, create, developers are giving initiatives if they create affordable living and workspaces. But
Well,
again,
how
I'm
about-
not saying
about-
it perfectly.
Well, wait, guys, I think we've covered that later. This is a specific line item because the flex rent thing is
Okay.
kind of separate from other types of incentives. So let's leave this here and go through the rest of them. And then if we still haven't covered it, come back to this one and try to put it in.
The idea here is to offer a decreasing discount each year to allow somebody to be able to take advantage of the fluctuations in the market. This is the way it was stated, and it's just getting convoluted like crazy. That's the intent. That's a general statement, and I think you ought to stick with it because that's the meaning. It gives people incentives to try and find their housing by giving them a big discount to start with and then less and less so that they get on the stick and find it. And they can do that because the market goes up and down, and that gives them the opportunity to find cheaper housing when the market is down. So I hope.
Okay, so you want to add to help newcomers work their way into the community, and to cushion against, I didn't quite get how to get the market stuff into there. Can you suggest what we took out that needs to go back in, Ron?
Yes, I think so, because the meaning has been morphed into something that it wasn't the original intent. So I think you just either take the original intent or just get rid of it.
So the question are we providing this for an incentive for the builders, or is this more of an incentive for people who will qualify for the flex rent schedule? Or is it both?
I'm glad you asked the last question. It's for both.
Okay. Then I think builders who offer a percentage of housing under a flex schedule may qualify for incentives, period. And then you can put 1.2A instead of 1.314. You can qualify that for, to encourage people to become homeowners, consider financial challenges, provide opportunities for. I think we're getting very wordy, and a lot of these things we've said in other ways in other paragraphs, but I understand what you're saying, Ron. It's like you want to make sure that the builders provide this for people who would be interested in and couldn't qualify for whatever it is that the flex rent becomes. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we can
So
go back to the original language. I'm sure I have a copy of it somewhere, Ron, and leave in the wording that you had. All right, well, we have a long way to go and a short time to get there. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. Encourage housing that enhances and builds community by develop public-private partnerships. This is the same goal we've had for a while. I added that promote affordability to provide housing for the elderly, those living with disabilities, the local workforce. I added families with children, veterans, and other. Instead of saying vulnerable populations, I changed it to distinct, because a lot of people don't want to be considered vulnerable. And then 2.1, meet goals for housing through affordable housing incentives and options, code updates and IGA agreements, and partnerships with public and private entities. And that's a pretty big goal. And I wanted to get in there a goal that we'd already had, find a way to monitor and ensure that incentivized housing is meeting its goals. And the next time we make an agreement with somebody, write in a penalty system if the goals are not met. that probably not going to get shot down. But I think if you make an agreement under contract law, usually there's a penalty if you don't meet your agreement. And if there's no penalty, then there's no incentive to meet the agreement. So anybody have a problem with that?
I do.
Okay.
I think those things are written in contracts between builders and whoever is, whether it's you're building a house for one person or whether someone is building a project for a community. That's something that's written in a contract.
Yeah, but it hasn't been, Kayla. There was a developer in town, according to another developer, you guys, Karen and Miranda, who I'm talking about over on Congress Street, it was a fourplex, as I understood it. He got some breaks because it was going to be affordable and then sold it at market value, and there was no penalty written into the contract. And so he got.
No, he didn't get any breaks, just so you know. What happened is the Board of Zoning adjustment, and this was just before I started, so it happened right before I started, but I read through all the documents. The Board of Zoning adjustment gave him a variance, and part of the reason they gave it to him was based on the fact that he told them it was going to be affordable housing, but whether or not you're going to do something as affordable housing really, it doesn't play into whether or not you should qualify for a variance with the Board of Zoning adjustment. But anyways, there's been a lot of rumors about that, but he did not get any special breaks from the town. He had to follow all the rules that the town puts in place. The only place that you could scrutinize would be the Board of Zoning adjustment. And the reality is they still might have gone ahead and given him the variance, even if he hadn't said it was going to be for affordable housing. But anyways, just wanted you to know the details on that.
Right. And Karen, do you find that this statement, I don't know if an attorney would be okay with that or not. I don't know how
Which
you
one?
write in a penalty system. Who? Between, that's something that is.
And honestly, that's way too detailed, and I don't
know how you
recommend that
enforce
being there.
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to leave it at find a way to monitor and ensure that
There
incentivized
you go.
housing is meeting stated goals, period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
period, exactly.
okay,
Or just monitor. I would just say, take out, find a way, just monitor and
okay.
Right.
ensure that incentivized housing is meeting stated goals. Because
Okay,
if it's not, then maybe you revisit the whole thing. You know, are we doing it correctly? Is there a better way to do this? You know?
Okay. All right, so still on the goal of encouraging housing that enhances and builds community. Provide incentives for developers and individual landowner developers is the intent here, to design and build livable, affordable, and low-income housing to accommodate all the groups that we have.
And see, Ron, don't you think that right there is the same as what you're saying? I mean, you're talking about a different type of product, which is flex rent. But that's why a flex rent one doesn't quite make sense to me, because if you're going to provide incentives for developers and individual landowners to design and build livable, affordable, and low-income housing to accommodate, seniors, low income, blah, 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 it's the same thing. It all fits in there together. So I'm not sure why you have to call that out. And I actually think when you get super specific like that, that's the kind of stuff that's going to get just sliced away, in the final, determination of what this document's going to look like.
Well, we become a little bit redundant, because I think the word incentives can be in a lot of different. It can be the flex rent. It can be, tap fees. It can be, the package, how you end up doing it can have a lot of different things in it. But to specifically name out a way that you're going to do it, I don't know if that's going to pass the board. Or, I understand what you're saying, Ron, but I'm not sure that I'm not sure that
It could
that
be,
being
it
that
could be in
detailed
the,
is going to work.
right, it could be
So-
in the addendum where you have proposed projects and initiatives. But in my mind, this is supposed to be a high level visionary document. And so I don't know. There's been a lot of conversation, and you guys will have a conversation next week on Tuesday when all of the committees get together and talk about this, because
Right.
there are some committees that are really sticking to not having any details because they really feel that's what they're supposed to be doing. And then for others who have gotten really specific and detailed, we're kind of pulling those things out and putting them in an addendum of like suggested projects or initiatives. So anyways,
Yeah, and
that's for those of you who haven't been at a meeting lately, so you know what's going on.
Yes.
And I think that, speaking of redundancy, since we fleshed out the groups that we're targeting here in goal 2, I think we can take out the
Right.
last part of this. So affordable and low income housing, period.
What are you on 2.2? Where are you, May?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
So cut it in half, ended up
Yep.
low income housing. And then, so this would be a possible place to spin off from in our projects and initiatives, related things to study, or, like a flex rent schedule.
I'm sorry to jump in here. This is Andrew Dewart. Hello, everyone.
And
Hi, can I just jump in on 2.2 for a second?
sure.
So I think that, one of the things when I read provide incentives for developers and individual landowners to design and build livable, affordable, and low income housing to accommodate seniors, low income individuals, including veterans, etc. Then like kind of doing a backwards price discovery of, okay, here is the land, wherever that land may be. Here is the proposed development, however that much would cost. And here would be the, actual income from that property. And knowing what right now, how much things cost to build, even for people who have money, who are trying to get things built, it's incredibly difficult. So I would love to see, what ideas the committee / board has on, what those incentives might be for the developers or individual landowners. But that's just something where, at the end of the day, raw land plus an improvement plus the income that's producing has to at some point balance out. And there are certain developers that are willing to take the long game and get paid out over the long term, and there's others that want to get their money quicker. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there to everyone to think about.
Well, and to that point, Andrew, I left it out of this document, but Ron had talked about amortized tap and permit fees. So I, for example, have a lot in town, and if I got a builder to put a 600 square foot house on it, maybe I could sell it for $500,000. And my other option would be to put up, maybe a couple tiny homes or foamcrete buildings and rent them out to people that are truly low income. But the only way that's going to work is if I have the incentive of the amortized tap fee.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'll be paying more for the tap fee than I will for anything else.
Well, I get it. No, I totally understand.
The one thing I just want to remind you guys, we have 25 minutes.
Okay, sorry, Karen.
This
Didn't
is,
mean to
it's okay.
go off on
It's,
it. Okay.
No,
All right.
no, it's okay. I just don't know, Andrew, if you know how this process has been working, and this is the last meeting of this committee. And what we're trying to do is finalize the language that they've already kind of honed in on.
Okay.
But not that you can't go ahead and
No, I don't want to go off on a diatribe, Karen, by any means.
yeah.
And I appreciate you reining me in. I just, one thing that I'm also considering is that, adopting the 2018 Boulder County building codes, while I have now a greater respect for building codes being a builder, it's going to add even more costs. I mean, it's going to happen no matter what, and that's okay. But just like, all of the things that go into more energy efficiency, health, safety, fire suppression, ignition resistant construction materials, all of those just kind of keep adding to that cost. But back to where you were at, Karen, is the language. I'll let you guys go on. I just wanted to kind of my whole point was price discovery of the lot based on the improvement and based on the income.
Yeah, and you're making a great point because, incentives or whatever, it's still got all pencil out.
Yeah,
for the
it
developer.
still has to work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
that totally makes sense, Andrew. And thanks for, infusing that bit of developer logic.
Yeah.
So what was the term you used? Price what?
Price discovery. It's like a reverse price discovery
We
of the
just write
land.
that in as a note, Miranda, so we have it all on this document, price discovery.
I don't think I just made that up. I think that's a real thing. Yeah, it is. It's, what the land costs, what the improvement would be, and how much the land could earn, whether we want it to earn for affordable housing or a donut shop or whatever, that the numbers have to work.
Right. So if you're providing low income housing, there are certain restrictions. Anyway, this is all still going to be worked on a little bit, but what I want to do is see what's too much and see what's going to be taken out. So examine feasibility. So we're on to 2.3. Examine feasibility. Woo, I misspelled it. Through a community survey or election to consider density or height increase in exchange for a percentage of affordable or senior units on a case-by-case basis. This is an example of incentives. 2.4, set a time by which town will create a schedule. This is definitely going to be a project initiative or under timetable, which I've created its own category. I think I misfiled it here, but set a time by which town will create a schedule. I mean, I've been talking to town now for 2 years here it is, amortized permit and tap fee or reduce fees to encourage adequate, equitable, and alternative housing solutions. So that's really important to me. It may be in the wrong place. And I'd appreciate feedback. Karen and
That almost seems like an initiative or a project, So
okay, let's put it in there.
That's what I would do, is put it in your addendum.
Okay. And then there was kind of the mirror image of that, which is if we're really going to get serious about our footprint, our carbon footprint, and acknowledge that the bigger the house, the bigger the use of resources, the less dirt, air, wildlife habitat, and so on we have in town. So I think we should make a statement. We want to encourage small scale homes by assessing a carbon negative rating for larger, sprawling, or inefficient homes, and they will pay more for their building and tap fees. The bigger the house, the bigger the percentage over the mean.
I'm sorry to I have to interject. I have to interject one thing, is that now with as tight as houses are built and building codes are, a large house can actually be more energy efficient than an older house. If we're talking about brand new construction, that's a different story, and I totally get it. And at the same time,
that's what we're talking about, Andrew.
Yeah. So okay. All right.
Let's keep going because, I don't think there's any debate about, if you put in a 5,000 square foot house as a builder, there's a lot of material. So there's just no getting around it, especially if you're making it really energy efficient. You got all kinds of equipment. Okay, 2.6 is a tip of the hat to Atashna. The misspelled again, feasibility of the creation Netherland Housing and Land Trust. I have no idea how we could do that, but it sounds like a great idea.
Well, I do, because we have suggested that. Karen, it's along the model of the housing group that we had proposed and we had talked about before for Bobcat. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you guys had a
Mountain housing
authority.
assistance.
It was a mountain housing authority, I think, that you guys were talking about.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's just.
But that really seems to me to be a project or initiative, you know?
Okay, let's put it under that. Because my main goal in getting through this meeting is that we get to everybody's comment and we assign a place for the stuff that's staying in. And I've got 5 goals now. We're halfway through, and this is what I wanted to be finished with this one, but we're doing well because we're really going over it. So Miranda, let's put project initiative on that. And I guess 2.4 through 2.6 will all be projects and initiatives. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, the next one. All right. Now, Kayla and I talked a lot about timelines, and I think it's time that we make it a goal to get a timeline. And so we're going to cross a little bit with some of the other committees like public engagement, but in parks and some, I think that some committees are intentionally duplicating because it's really important to the success of that particular committee. So poor Kayla's been in the midst of her project, so has Ron for a decade, and so have I, trying to put up a tiny home without paying, 3 times as much for the tap fee as I'm going to put into the building. So I think we need to establish a timeline, and that will go to our priorities and initiatives. I don't know whether we want to spell that out.
Well, our code gives deadlines and for applications and such. And Ron has had the opportunity to come back after he presented his conceptual plan, and he has chosen not to. So I don't want it to always sound like it's something in the town's timeline that's not allowing these things to go further.
Well, I appreciate that, Karen, but if you look at Susan Wagner's comments on, what is NED, and really, like right here in this paragraph you've got up, Miranda, whoop, you had it. It's the first paragraph on that page. Down a little bit. There's no way to resolve a disagreement over what Netherland wants for its future without a comprehensive survey of public opinion. And the committee, municipal government, is doing it using the word Netherland. Really what Netherland is right now are 4 people on the board of trustees. That's a majority. And so, Karen, I agree with you. Sure, Ron could bring his project in, but without enabling the public to weigh in a meaningful way. And I don't think that anybody wants to go to board meetings anymore.
Yeah, and I get that. It's just that you were talking about a timeline, like somehow, it's related to a timeline. What you're really talking about is taking things to a vote. And so that's a whole different story than,
I think I want to make a new timeline where we have a different process so that when we have and we go into it in public engagement in more detail,
okay.
And I should reference that.
So again, look at it from your desired outcome, not the details. The details would go into that addendum, right? What's your desired outcome? Is it to engage the community more deeply in making decisions about community development?
Yeah.
Up to and including taking things to the voters? because
Yeah.
that there is a goal or objective. But everything you're writing, these lengthy paragraphs describing, why and how and who's going to do it, that's beyond what this Envision 2030 document's supposed to be. Because once you start getting into those details, that shows individual bias and individual agendas, which is not what this is supposed to be, right?
I
It's
know.
supposed to be
So Karen, could you,
but
this
here-
is Bonnie, could you repeat that so that could, to consider that as the goal instead of the timeline, to say, engage the community in a process? I don't know.
yeah, because engage the community in a process to I don't know. I can't even remember what I said.
Can I play devil's advocate for just a second here? I understand what you're doing. I understand that the point of this is to get more of a consensus for more people in the town about things they would like to see or wouldn't like to see. But there also is I don't think it's appropriate for my neighbor to tell me I can't paint my house a certain color if it's code okay. I don't think you want public input on every little thing that's being done. I don't think it's desirable, necessary, required, or legal. And
Yeah, but remember, Kayla, we were talking yesterday at the public engagement, about hot topics, what we're talking about, what color you're painting your house is of interest to one person, maybe. It's not going to make it.
But when you write a paragraph like this, you're opening up that can of worms. And I also think that we need to be very careful with the legality of doing things like that. For instance, just to throw one out, you're talking about the possibility of putting an annexation property to a vote of the people, except it's already been done in town and there's precedent set for that happening and not going to a vote. So I don't know, I'm just saying, I think we have to be really careful. I understand the ultimate end game that you're looking for, but I think being this specific about certain things, it gets kind of, there are pitfalls to it also that need to be acknowledged.
Well, maybe what we should do is put in here something to really establish that it is a hot topic, a regularly scheduled if triggered by enough public feedback.
Well, I think
So
the idea, what you and I had talked about this once, is that if what seems like it's not getting any attention or not moving along quickly, if it goes to the vote of the people and we all decide everybody in town really wants this, that it will hurry something along or expedite it. I'm not sure that's necessarily true.
No, I think it is, because I think what happens is we have encountered the reality that the Board of Trustees sometimes acts against many people. And whether it's because they're too busy to really evaluate the public comment, or people are discouraged about offering public comment, we're trying to make the town more interactive so that certain things have a platform for discussion.
I understand that too, but I think that understanding
yeah, we need to move on.
The cost of putting everything to a vote in town it's not sustainable.
Well, that's why we went to the survey idea. So let's see, engage the community in a process to establish I want to be specific here. Engage the community on hot topics regarding housing, not just growth, but housing.
But what's a hot topic?
Can I just add one thing here, that it may involve, hiring a town planner, like whose sole job it is to do town planning.
Well, right now, Andrew, we're not really
I know,
trying to
I
create
know.
positions. So I think we want to just come to consensus with the committee.
But we know we don't want to look like Santa Fe, and we don't want to be Crested Butte or whatever. It's just, trying to, I think that's one gap that I've seen that just from an outside perspective is might be helpful for that goal number 3. That's all. Thank you.
Maybe we can go back to what I had in some other place. I think it's the next bullet there, through following the Envision 2030 process. So engage, maybe we should go back and make this goal really short. Engage the community on hot topics regarding housing, period. And then 3.1, get public input by following the Envision 2030 process for public engagement, and a vote at a regularly scheduled election if triggered or if called for, and possibly a vote, something like that, on local preferences. I don't think you can get around it, Kayla, until the one that got through without a vote. Every other annexation was voted for, and that's what people expect. That's what we've seen at meeting after meeting. So I think people want to feel like they're being heard. And if we don't,
I still think you're being too specific. So your goal is to
an issue that should go to the voters. That's of max of high town interest is too specific. I differ. I think if you have a major issue that you should engage the voters, because then you don't have 4 people making a decision that affects the whole town. And I think that's a very important point. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, we have a majority on that. Let's move on. I'm certainly open to further discussion, Kayla, but I get shot down in some of my meetings. So let's keep going. 3.2. This is just ancillary stuff submitted. Determine capacity and, if necessary, limits to number of water taps and building permits issued. This might be a project initiative, but I think it's super important. We don't no longer live on the frontier where, we can just keep taking land away from the Indians and their stuff. I mean, there's a limit. So if nobody's against that, and then the rest of it, again, when you see italics, guys that came in late, these are comments that are driving and supporting these new line items in our plan. Yeah, water pressure is important. Okay, so nobody's just like bound and determined to keep that out. Moving on, goal 4, integrate sustainability into planning. This was really a big topic on.
Are you 4.1? I'm sorry. Are you?
I'm not. I was just right on the main goal. Integrate sustainability into planning.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm thinking maybe we should say in wildfire preparedness into planning. It's kind of a no-brainer, but some of the supporting documents that are listed, Miranda, you're typing like I am. Too many words in just not enough days. Integrate sustainable wildfire preparedness into planning. Okay, so now Kayla, 4.1.
Got it. Thank you.
This comes from Kevin. I think he makes some good points. As I've been saying, I've been watching Greta Thunberg's programs, and I mean, we have to confront. I'm not saying that your project shouldn't happen or Ron's project shouldn't happen, but I think there's room for a variety of solutions to the housing thing. And I think one of the things that's happening is maybe we should say reduce the size and amount of private home construction, new private home construction or new home construction, so that this doesn't really speak to your development, Kayla. I'm thinking about all the new houses I've seen spring up around me that are like gigantic. And talking about repurposing existing buildings and building more sustainably. So I think this goal would be supported by the sustainability people. Karen, I don't know, and Miranda, whether this is considered too specific.
I think the 4.1 is perfect. I would just leave it right as it is. Because you're not saying how you're going to reduce it. You're just saying that you're going to reduce the size and amount of construction by repurposing existing buildings and building more sustainability. It's succinct, it's clear.
Let's
think
put
it's
in
fine.
private home construction, reduce the size.
Why would you do that? Why wouldn't it be any construction?
Okay,
The way
great.
Kevin had said. I would
Okay.
just leave it. Yeah.
All right. So 4.2, and of course, all the stuff in italics, people, is going to come out, but this is just part of my process. I thought you might want to look over it when you have time. Sorry it took so long for me to do it. All right, 4.2, this came from Susan Wagner. I think it's worth recommitting to. Promote a compact, sustainable land. And this is the award-winning plan, right? We got an award for such a great plan. So promote a compact. And this also ties right in with the 60 SWOT surveys we got, where so many people wanted to develop downtown. Promote a compact, sustainable land use pattern in Netherlands that emphasizes infill and redevelopment of existing developed land. It goes along with a lot of what's being talked about in some of the other committees. It's well connected and encouraged decreased auto dependence. That's page 37. And then ... growth be directed toward infill and redevelopment. Parcels in the downtown core, rather than outlying areas of town that have limited access to existing infrastructure. So I think that's worth leaving in. Oops, I should have renumbered this to 4.3. Consider landscape management, fire and other safety risks, and repairing corridors when reviewing applications for special projects. I just wrote this and maybe the language needs tweaking. I just tried to pull together some of the stuff that's referenced here. Anybody got comments on that?
If you incorporate the 2018 Boulder County land use codes, the revegetation and silt fences and several of the other things that go into this will be mandatory.
Okay, let's put in Boulder County 2018 land use code as a possible reference at the end and maybe cite it, or is that?
Remember, this is a 2030 Envision. And again, we're staying high level. So maybe that's an initiative or project,
Yeah, or just, I think we want to have.
I think what Andrew is saying is that this particular goal will be achieved if the Board of Trustees adopts the 2018 code. I mean, that's what I think I'm hearing him say. So he's just letting you know that there's
Correct,
a path
yes.
to that we're on right now.
Okay,
So-
Miranda, could you write something about BOT considering adopting Boulder County 2018 land use code at this time, or something like that? 2018, and then just say the date, 2018. Okay, now this next step, I think I've written it in. We did add wildfire. Okay, here it is, 4.3, integrate FireWise principles in land use and planning. Okay, moving on. And because, Andrew, we're going to adopt all these things. So here's some, going back up to the links here. I do want to work on some, if you can scroll up, Miranda, maybe briefly. Ooh, it's almost 6 o'clock. Okay, update codes. Let's move on. Talking about here, adding some reference at the end. Here's where we get into the detail, a little more detail about, and then maybe these are projects and initiatives that I list all after 5 point. But a goal would be to update, or would that be an initiative to update the codes?
Be an initiative.
Karen, Miranda, you guys agree that it's not a goal, it's an initiative?
Well, I think all the 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, those are all initiatives and projects. I mean, you could say that the update and adopt local building codes would support a wide spectrum of housing choices. I think that's good as an objective or a goal, but the other ones are really kind of initiatives, you know?
Okay, great. All right, let's go down and see what else we have. Keep going. Okay, 5.4. This is part of the sustainability component. These would all be under objectives or projects objectives, I suppose. And I might have left some in.
Isn't that redundant? Didn't you sort of say that in the back, the 4.2?
Maybe. And it's definitely going to need going over here. So that 5.7
I just have one other question that
would
results.
be a project initiative, Miranda. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. It's the presumptive size maximum, which if you guys aren't familiar with, Boulder County, in unincorporated Boulder County, there is what's called a presumptive size maximum. And what they do is they take a 500-yard radius from your house and they spin it, and you get 1,000-yard circle. And they take the mean average of the houses within that circle. And that is the presumptive size maximum that one can build. So when we have a small town and small houses or old cabins that are more dense, what this code was written to reduce, like McMansions up on the highway between Lyons and Boulder. But I think that would just be one thing to be aware of, is like, do you guys are aware, and are we aware of how the presumptive size maximum could affect negatively or positively the way development happens in town? That's
Well,
all.
can we put that in, Miranda? Let's say look into presumptive size. We can get together as a committee after this meeting. Presumptive size maximums. Where'd you find that, Andrew? Is that Boulder County or what?
Their county land use.
Okay, under county. Would you put that in so I'll remember, because otherwise I'll forget.
So we're reaching the point where Miranda and I have to go. So I'm wondering if you guys could now talk about a plan of how you're going to connect this weekend, work on this document, and then get us the final by Monday morning.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Andrew, if you want to be CC'd in, you're not a voting member, but
I'm happy to be whatever resource. Sometimes I get off track, but whatever help I can be, because I've been like developing and building in Boulder County, and it's a lot of brain damage, but it's also it's a lot of fun and it's rewarding, and I think everything can sync up more or less, and as long as we're all aware of what we're dealing with when we go into it, that's all.
For sure. Well, we appreciate your input. So, Miranda, if you can send out this document to all of us, and then I will reach out to the parties, Kayla and Ron, in terms of finalizing. Andrew will integrate, and you can copy everybody on the list if you want, if you have comments that you want us to consider. Does that sound okay to you guys?
Yep.
Is that okay with you, Kayla and Ron?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I just want to make one quick comment. We have a design code right now that limits the size of houses and redevelopment, because it basically says you can't build anything that doesn't look like or isn't approximately the same of what's already there. That's going to inhibit a lot of development potential. That's
design code review.
Yeah, review the design code. It's designed to be sure that nothing gets built.
Well, if I forget to put it in, Ron, you know, shoot me an email. I'll put it into my document right now. Design review standards, is that what you call it?
No, review the design code to face
Oh, okay.
reality, the need for additional housing.
Review the design code. That's a good point. That could definitely be a project initiative.
Karen,
Okay.
Miranda, you need to go. I need to go. May,
I do,
if
yeah,
you want to
I
talk
really do.
tomorrow, let's. I can do that. The sooner the better, so we can have this document ready to give to these guys on Monday.
Yeah,
or Sunday's a better day for you.
Is Bonnie still on? Bonnie dropped off.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm on, but I don't need to continue. I don't think, I think the comments, you know, I just am tracking. So go ahead without me.
well, thank you so much for your input. It's always most welcome. Yeah, Kayla, let's stay on, and Ron, if you want, and we'll finalize when and how we're gonna go over this.
Okay,
Yeah.
we got to do it quick because I got to go too.
Okay, so Kayla, tomorrow depends on whether my grandkids come over.
Okay.
So if I do it early morning would be best before they get here. If they don't come, we can talk in the afternoon, which would be better.
All right.
So if you can give me a
I'll
quick
just check
shout
in with you.
Yeah, check in with me in the morning.
Okay.
And Ron, do you want to do it by email or phone call?
I'd prefer a phone call.
Okay. Well, I'll work on what I get from Miranda a little bit and try to clean it up and take out all the stuff that is in italics so it's easier to look at. And then when's a good time to talk tomorrow, Ron, or Sunday better?
Afternoon is best.
Okay. Well,
Just give me a couple hours notice with a text and I'll make sure to be on any time, either tomorrow or Sunday.
okay. Yeah, once my day falls into place tomorrow, I'll text you. I'll talk to Kayla. So
Yep. Sounds,
we're good to go. All right, thank you, everybody. A good
sounds
meeting.
good. Thank you. A lot of good work.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you for
Okay.
letting me join.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,